Alright, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra's Lair. I'm your host, and for a limited time only, bong-rippingest Chupacabra that you ever did see. And today we're checking out an odd indie title in the business management category called iGrow by iDev Games, which is a $5 title that lets you grow pot in a rundown apartment that looks like it used to be part of an old rubber factory, and then sell it to the local weed dealer, and then try not to get arrested because somebody can smell weed. That's really the gist of it, or the in a nutshell description. And as I was playing around, I'm sure you can see that I did the most adult thing possible and named my drug operation different save files after Hank Hill, Bobby Hill, and Peggy Hill. So we're just gonna jump in here for a new game, and we're gonna call our new save Sasquatch, because why not? And let's hop in here. So what I can tell you is, before you're even loaded into this game, there's a bunch of messages about a bunch of different bugs that can still happen, and this game came out in 2014. I just got a key for it late last year from the developer. And the other thing is, you get presented with a global chat window here from other people playing this game in other parts of the world. And when I first started playing this, that was full of people swearing and cussing and calling each other expletives like faggot, and it was not a good time. Well, I mean, I could have given a shit, but this thing is in your face and it's taking up a large chunk of the screen, so it turns out you can just hit C. But why they would make a game that's pretty much just single player have a multiplayer chat, I have no idea. And then the other feature of this game that I just disabled in the settings menu in here is that you have resource meters in the game of hunger, food, and your energy levels, but the only thing that those serve to do is run me out of money before I can actually do anything interesting in the game, so I just disabled those. But your entire life, like one of those shut-in otakus in animes, is you just eat and drink stuff from these two vending machines. So, I've named this one Earl and this one Patty. So there you have it. So now what we have to do is we have to find an apartment to buy to set up our grow operation. So this is a drug dealer that lives in this apartment, so we can't buy that. But once we do have weed, we can come back and sell it to this guy. And then we can buy this flat for 12 grand. This one's 13. And we can sprint in here, it looks like. This is 14. This is 12. That's actually the cheapest. Oh, there we go. I can buy this one for 10 grand. So yeah, we just buy a random apartment in this run-down old apartment building. Very slumming it. Which looks like it just uses a lot of really cheap textures to coat the walls. And this is true for every room in this game. Every apartment basically looks the exact same. And already, like, this is clearly two of the exact same repeating parts of the same texture in a corner looking at each other. So that was very classy. But I guess for a $5 game, what do you want? So otherwise, we set up our grow operation here in this room by clicking on these different little see-through squares. And then when we get tired or want to skip through time, we come back here and pop a squat in our sleeping bag. So yeah, that's basically about it. We'll just get started by installing a ventilation system. And the idea here is that this keeps this place well ventilated. And on the edges here of this room are now these two filters that we have to replace periodically that keep the smell from leaking out and alerting the neighbors that somebody's growing weed. Considering everybody in this building is probably selling weed, I don't know who the fuck is reporting other people, but somebody's being a dick. So those will slowly run down, and you have to keep them replaced or else the cops will come and arrest you and then you gotta start over. And then we just have to do things like start buying plants to grow. So we're gonna buy a container And you can't buy higher level cooler containers, even if you're smart with your money to begin with, to sort of get a leg up on the game. You have to slowly grind through this entire thing by, like, buying a standard pot here to contain your pot. And then I'll put another one over here. And your first instinct in a game like this would be to fill the room with pot, but I'll show you why that's not exactly a good idea in a moment. So now we've got pot, we need to get some lights for that pot to keep it alive, and I'll actually get a slightly more, well actually no I can't. I was about to say I'll get a slightly more expensive bulb, but you can't do that because you need to get to level 4. So I'll just buy a nice 60 watt bulb, which actually looks like a 60 watt hipster LED bulb. And then once we got all this stuff in place, I'll be able to start growing weed. And who would have guessed that growing weed is really hard when you have to put forth effort to water it? So now that we've got this pot, we can buy some seeds, and we can grow it and go sell it to that weed dealer across the hall. So I'm going to start out with just dirt weed, which is the cheapest weed. It only takes a day to grow, it only weighs 1 ounce, and it's only got a potency of 1, but it grows pretty fast to show you guys. You can also buy brick hemp, which is like dirt weed, but it grows in 3 days and provides 3 ounces for the same potency. And then as you level up, you get more valuable weed that you can buy. So I'll start with just dirt weed, and that'll be planted there. We'll put another dirt weed here. And then after that, we have to continuously come back, click on this, and water it, or else it'll start to turn gray and die almost immediately, which is really weird. There's very few plants that you can't just saturate the soil with water, and they just suddenly die on you. And as you can actually see, the model does consistently get bigger and, like, grow larger as you just sit here and stare at it. So that's the nice thing about dirt weed. The bad thing is that every plant in this game, if you walk away for 5 minutes, will turn gray or brown and die, especially if you decide that you want to go back in here and skip through some time to sleep, because otherwise this game is a really big knuckle drag. Like, there is very little to do in this game besides stare at this and, wait. So the other thing is, you might notice that the plant is starting to discolor and lose some of its green tinge. That's because they're starting to want more water. And if I'm not careful, they'll dry out and they'll die. Like, almost instantaneously. So the whole gameplay loop in this is plant pot, water pot so it doesn't die, and then stare at it while it grows, and hope that it doesn't just automatically die. Now, I think, okay, so now that I hover over it, there's actually a water meter that I wasn't loading in when I was playing before. But you can see, these things run out of water very quickly, but on the plus side, the dirt weed grows ridiculously fast. But as I was saying, I do believe if you click on this square, and you prepare the room with like a fancy pre-made room, you can get some automatic watering systems. But aside from that, like, you're just stuck here kind of grinding it out, making sure these things have enough water so that they don't die. And while these are kind of figuring themselves out, I guess I'll install some more containers, just so I don't get driven completely nuts. And then let's install a light up here. Some of the most expensive cheapo lights I've ever seen in my life, I should mention. And I'll make sure all this stuff stays watered. And then after this is done growing, which it's almost done already, we'll let it dry for a bajillion years, and then we'll go sell it to Javier, because Javier, we're like his favorite weed grower, because no one else lives in this apartment building. Except, like, that Haitian family who I'm pretty sure is a pile of smugglers. But I love those smugglers. They're the guys that got me my bootleg Nintendo Switch, so what's not to love, right? I'm wondering if I let these get a little bit drier as they grow, if they will dry a little faster. I'm thinking maybe. Unfortunately, the watering is not detecting correctly. So that's another bug. And this game has been out for a while. Like, the developers had plenty of time to improve upon this game. But if I was gonna tell you to buy a game like this, I would honestly tell you to buy a game like Basement, which is a proper, like, business simulating experience. This one is kind of just like watching paint dry, or in this case, watching weed grow. And constantly having, like, the game save and require things from you, like admin permissions. Every time you log into this game, it wants you to, like, give it permission to do stuff on your computer. And I'm like, what? That's like something you need once when you install, bro. I'm not sure I understand. Okay, so this is complete. Now I can cut and dry this stuff. And what I'm looking for is, I'm looking for dry bud. I want those, like, those hemp pods to be dry and not wet so that we can take this to get sold. These are actually growing pretty well. Let's water these. And should I have, like, really slow growing weed and I have a bunch of apartments in this game, which I don't know who would play this game long enough to do that, you can go up here to the security system, which looks like a Polaroid photo on the wall. And this gives you a bird's eye view of the same stuff, so you can actually control the room from one location without actually walking up to any of these plants. So you can water them, although it is annoying that the buttons are in completely different configurations than they were before. Like, water was on top, but now water's on bottom and the buttons are ridiculously close together. I don't know, it's just like, I'm not expecting a lot for $5, but I'm expecting a bit more than this because you can buy lots of games, especially during a Steam summer sale, for very little money, like even less than $5. And you get so much more, like you get a better UI and interface, you get better controls, you get more stuff to do besides grow weed and talk to your dealer. And if that's your daily routine in this world, is like waiting to talk to your dealer, boy, that's some boring shit, isn't it? Like, you need to get out there into the world, go to some clubs, sell some undercover police officers some pills that will make them froth at the mouth and want more. Like, all that stuff, but I don't know. I feel like this could definitely go further down the business management sim side. Because, are you guys riveted yet? Because God knows I am. Very, very riveted. On the plus side, I don't think I need to water either of these plants anymore. So we can just sit back and relax and enjoy the mildly Latin elevator music that is playing in the background. I'm also really glad I disabled the resources feature, because resource bars were a bad concept when they were new, let alone now. I think this will get complete before it dries up completely. This is complete, so we can cut and dry that. And then this is complete as well. Okay. Now we can basically time hop. Thank goodness. Let's time hop a little bit. So if we jump into sleep, I gotta keep an eye on our vent controls so they don't get screwy and reveal us to the popo. So this stuff is all very wet. I don't want to pick and store it until it's dry, obviously. Because what can end up happening is if you pick it too early, the game will, like, give you less money for it. So this is both wet, this is very wet. But it'll give you less money for it when you get to the dealer, or it'll be ruined by the time you get to the dealer, and you won't be able to do anything with it basically at all. Like, you'll just have to throw it away, and you've wasted a bunch of time and your money. Which is really unfortunate, to say the least. Okay, let's go replace those filters, and this stuff should be just about dry now. So we just replace that filter. There we go. That makes things very easily. So this is dry bud, and we harvested almost a complete ounce of this at a little over 1 potency. I'm not sure if something randomizes those numbers at all. but they can tend to be a little bit different each time. Like the potency and the amount. And I wish it would just tell you, like, you got what you paid for on the side of the seed. Like, I know there's a chance for you not to get what you paid for when planting plants, but in a game like this, I think there should be a chance to get more from the seeds that you planted from this very plant for how much weed you get when you're done. But at present, I don't know. This game isn't completely awful, it's just there isn't enough stuff to do. Like, I can overlook a lot of what's going on in this game for low-res assets, lack of polygons on stuff, you know, things like that. Bad kind of janky UI. I can overlook all of that if there was just something more for you to do in the game. Which I think I'll actually go back and play Basement on my account and show you guys what that looks like. So let's sell it to this dealer. I've got 4 ounces of this, and it sells for 300 bucks an ounce. So it kind of pays for the equipment that we use to make it. So that's... yeah, I got a little bit underneath of an ounce for each of those. So we made back some of our money, but we're still not rolling in the dough. But that, in a nutshell, is iGrow. Like, you sell weed to the guy across the hall, you expand your facilities, upgrade equipment, which normally would be really cool, but so far I've not been especially impressed by how fast things go. Like, it just takes too long to do everything, and it's just not that entertaining. So I think I'm actually going to just say screw it for growing more stuff right now, and let's just take a look at what else you can buy. So you can buy better containers. So you can buy a larger soil plot, which is 300 bucks, and the more room for roots to grow increases the yield of your weed. You can buy a standard hydroponic system for 1,000, which growing in water has its advantages, increases yield and auto waters, and this is where you'd want to get to. But we grew 4 things of weed, and we're not even level 1 yet. So getting to level 8 is going to take an eternity. And so there's just a bunch of, like, really nice automated systems in here, which I'm sure are increasingly cool looking compared to this boring pot and these cylinder lights that you get. But I just don't feel compelled to get to that point. So I'd say pass on this game. If you're looking to spend something, your $5 to get a lot of bang for your buck, look at the top games under 5 category. I don't think you'll see this game there. So that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Larry the Chupacabra. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. Bye, everybody, and have a good one.